And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and it's time for Monday Morning Quarterback. Every Friday night, Team FYN Sports covers the field, and every time we cover the field. And I have RJ Casey on the line with me. He's a sports writer for Team FYN Sports down in Pickens County. We're going to talk about the Dragons, but before I bring RJ into the conversation, on Friday nights, if you'll follow us on Twitter, @FetcherNews, hashtag @FetcherNews on Twitter, hashtag Team FYN Sports, hashtag Gilmer Football, hashtag Dragon Football, or Pickens Football, hashtag Union Football, or hashtag Fandom Football. We tweet out the scores and highlights all through the night on the sideline. So at any time on Friday night you want to follow us, please do. Please follow us on Friday nights, and then on Saturday we usually get up our pictures throughout the night that you can share. Let me just, before I bring RJ in, Gilmer lost to Murphy 27-6. That was their homecoming. They lost to Murphy 27-6. The Union Panthers, they won over the Banks County Leopards. I was there Friday night. The Union Panthers 42-28. That makes Union Panthers 4-0 on the season, and that was a pretty solid game. Actually, I really enjoyed that game. And then the Fannin Rebels, they went over to Andrews, and they won 42-0. The Fannin Rebels, they won over there, and that brought them to 500 again. They're 2-2 on the season. But now we got RJ Casey. RJ is the sports writer for Team FYN Sports. And right now I'm seeing that the 35-31 was the final score there. North Forsyth defeat the Dragons 35-31. And RJ Casey is on the line with us now, and he's on the sideline for the Dragons. RJ, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good, Brian. How about you?
Sorry to have to get you up so early. I know how you sports writers are. You're up all night long tweeting out scores, watching highlights. I know how you sports guys are. And this early stuff is rough, isn't it, RJ?
Oh, yeah, especially coming back from a Braves game last night. But
were you down at the Braves game last night?
Yeah, Braves threw two rain delays, and then I guess they were about to start it again, and then it started raining and lightning again. So I said nets on it and left, and then they called it after 7.
Well, RJ, I appreciate you being on. One of the reasons I wanted to get you on is the Dragons find themselves in a unique position. They have dropped 3 in a row. Can you highlight a little bit what took place Friday night in this game here that's 35-31? And then give us a little bit, you've been following the Dragons for years, and you've been following them for Team FYN Sports. This makes your 3rd season on the sideline for Team FYN Sports. Tell us a little bit about Friday night's game.
Well, Pickens won the toss, and I like to defer to get the second half kickoff. Both Forsyth came in. They were 2-1 coming in, and they were known for throwing the ball a lot, and they did that a little bit on their opening drive. They got it first down, but then the Dragons' defense was able to hold them and get the ball to the offense. The offense started off really well. Senior Chris Pittman, running back, went 60 yards for the touchdown to give the Dragons the lead. And then the defense was able to stop the Raiders again. The Dragons got the ball again on offense, and this time with Kellen Gilbert getting in from 5 yards out to stretch the lead to 14-0. And then North Forsyth finally got on the board with a touchdown run of their own, and that would be a theme for the night for them. And then the Dragons got a touchdown again to make it 21-7. right before the end of the first quarter, and we went to the second quarter with the Dragons up 21-7. Lone score in the second quarter came from North Forsyth. They ran it in to make it 21-14 to go into the half. And North Forsyth got the only score in the third quarter as well to make it 21-all going into the fourth quarter. Let's see here. Then the Dragons got a field goal from Rudy Perez. He booted a 29-yard field goal in the fourth quarter, giving the Dragons their first points in the second half, first points since the first quarter, really. To get the Dragons the lead back 24-21, North Forsyth came back and got their first lead of the ball game about a little less than halfway left into the fourth quarter. They led it 28-24. Dragons had a really good drive, a little under 5 minute drive, and got down to the 5-yard line where junior quarterback Jacob Brumby found sophomore Zach Goss for a 5-yard touchdown with 48 seconds left at a 31-28 lead. But North Forsyth was able to drive down and connect on a 42-yard touchdown pass with 16 seconds left to win the ball game, 35-31.
Well, let me ask you a question, RJ. This is an interesting place the Dragons find themselves in. You've been on the sidelines for 3 years. They have lost 3 games in a row. These are very competitive teams they are playing, but then also the region games that they're getting ready to play are also competitive teams. So, I mean, where do you see this Dragons team going into an off week? What's your take on, 3 losses back to back with this team?
I don't think the coaching staff and the players are going to be discouraged, and I don't think Coach Parker would want them to be discouraged because they've played close ball games. In these last 3 ball games, they've lost. Let's see, they've lost by a total of 16, 5, 4, 20 points maybe. Last 3 games, they're playing tough teams. They're playing out of classification teams. They're playing playoff teams from the previous year, and North Forsyth, who's greatly improved, got a new coach, and then Chattahoochee has been a little bit better than I think people were expecting too. They're 500 going into their region play and everything, but I wouldn't think they'd be too discouraged going into it. Yeah, you don't want to be 1-3 after your first 4 ball games going in the region play, but the way they played Friday night, I think Coach Parker was most pleased, but I think that was the most complete they've played since the Chattahoochee game.
Explain what you mean by the most complete game. Now, they lost 2 games in a row, and they went into this game. Last Monday night, Chris Parker, the head coach of the Pickens Dragons, said that they knew they were going into a tough game at North Forsyth. But explain what you mean by most complete. What does that mean, RJ?
Both sides were doing well. Like, the offense finally came alive. The offense really hasn't done anything since the Chattahoochee game. And you had the Pepperell game where you had 6 turnovers. You had the North Hall game where you only had a handful of possessions. And it still came down to the wire. And you couldn't really get any scores until
Are you there? Did I lose you? RJ. I think we lost him.
Still there.
I can't hear him.
RJ, are you there?
No,
No, he's gone.
Okay, we lost RJ.
We'll get him back.
Okay, we're going to try to get him back. But while we're waiting on to get RJ back on here, Murphy was over Gilmer 27-6, and that puts Gilmer 0-4 on the season. They have no wins. Last Friday night was homecoming, and it was Coach Casey Wingard's first game as head coach for the Gilmer Bobcats. The Gilmer Bobcats will next. I haven't looked at Friday night. I know Pickens has a bye week. The Union Panthers. Let me highlight this team and Brian Ellison's team up there. The Union Panthers. They went over to Banks County, played the Banks County Leopards. Banks is a very good team. Union finds themselves 4-0 going into region play. They're in very good shape going into region play. There's a lot of confidence on that sideline. There's a lot of belief that they can win going into region play. The team that will have to show more balance and determination will be the Fannin Rebels. Fannin Rebels are 2-2 on the season. They went over. It played, I'm going to call it a very easy Andrews team. I've seen Andrews play already this year. I've seen what Union did when they went over to play them. And Fannin did the same thing. So Andrews doesn't have a lot of kids on the field. It's not a hard team to play. And Fannin really needed that. Go ahead and plug him back in. Fannin really needed that game. So we'll see what happens there as Fannin goes into region play. So Union's looking real good going into region play, 4-0. Fannin's 2-2, and they're in the same region, region 6. AAA. RJ, you back with us? We got about 5 minutes. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
What'd you do? Drop the phone off your pillow because you sound asleep? Is that what happened? Okay.
I don't know. I guess it was,
RJ, you were telling me that they had their most complete game, and that's where we lost you. What were you explaining as their most complete game? And let me ask you this. Tonight we will be talking to Coach Parker, and I want you to make sure you have 3 good questions. You got all day today after you take a nap to get me 3 good questions for tonight for Coach Parker, because we want to see what he thinks he's going to do in the off week. What do you think that the Dragons need to do in this off week? They're off Friday night, and they prepare for their first region game against Gilmer week after next. So what do you think they need to work on this week?
I think they need to first work on themselves, what they want out of these next 6 games, and what they want to do for the rest of the season. Think that's first week. It's fall break. Got a couple kids maybe banged up. Get them rested up. Look at film. Study. Just get yourself better. And for the first couple of days, and then transition and focus on that next game, which happens to be a big rivalry game. Focus on that, and then get ready for Gilmer the next week.
Gilmer will be a rivalry game. Gilmer will be their first region game. And just because Gilmer's 0-4, Gilmer has a couple weeks here. They've had a lot of kids come back out since the coaching change. They had I've heard the numbers as high as 17 since Casey Wingard has taken over the team, is what I've heard. So that will be, although Gilmer is 0-4 going in the region. Pickens is 1-3, and that's just the facts. The Dragons may have played some tougher region games or non-region games to prepare for region play, but the reality is one is 1-3 and one is 0-4, and you're going to be going into region play with a very big rivalry game. What do you think about that matchup coming up?
Well, yeah, like you said, Gilmer might be 0-4, but they're going to come in playing Pickens up there 4-0. I mean, this might be, you never know what can happen, but this might be their playoff game this year for Gilmer. And Coach Wingard is going to get his kids focused and ready and prepared. And I know I know Coach Parker's going to be telling them don't even focus on what their record is or how they've been doing. The rest of the non-region schedule. Focus on 0-0 right now, as is every team in the region. They're 0-0 right now. And you can make a statement, and you can start off region right. You could be 1-0 on the season. This is the second season, and those past 4 games do not mean a thing anymore. It's just these 6 games, and it starts with Gilmer. You can bet that Coach Parker's going to have the kids ready and focused, and it's going to be a good game.
Well, RJ, I agree with you that Pickens game may be Gilmer's playoff game, and they may come in there really wanting to win this game, knowing that they are struggling a little this year, and may be a rebuilding year for them. Maybe the playoff game, and a rivalry football game, regardless of what the standings is still a rivalry football game. RJ, I appreciate you. We'll look for you on Friday night. You're off this week. I don't know if you're going to visit any other games around the area, but I know you're off this week, and we'll see you tonight. Tonight at Schottenkirk Ford at 7 o'clock for Pickens Power Half-Hour Dragon Talk. And I expect you to have a couple good, tough questions. I know Coach Parker is always waiting for you to tee up some good questions for him. So you prepare those today for us, all right?
I'll get to it.
All right. Talk to you later, buddy. Appreciate you.
Eat some pizza, too.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, eat some pizza tonight. Hey, that is RJ Casey. RJ is on the sidelines for the Pickens Dragons. I think we woke him up this morning. He was at the Braves game, double rain delay, and they finally called it in the 7th. RJ likes to definitely loves his Braves, but he loves his Pickens Dragons. Next week, tonight, don't forget, we do 3 sports shows a week. That is tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday night. Tonight is at Schottenkirk Ford at 7 o'clock. Go to fyntv.com at 7 o'clock, and we'll have Chris Parker and the players, and plenty of pizza from Johnny's New York Style Pizza. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, we're at Circuit World here in East Ellijay, and we'll have head coach of the Gilmer Bobcats, Casey Wingard, and he will be over here with players, and we want to thank Shane's Rib Shack for providing a meal for the players and coach there. And then Wednesday night, we're at Circuit World in Blue Ridge with head coach Jim Pavo, the Fan and Rebels. Rebel wrap-up at 7 o'clock, and we want to thank Blue Jeans Pizza up there. You notice I never forget who provides the food. You never forget the food, right? Blue Jeans Pizza up there in Fannin County, and we'll have head coach Jim Pavo. That's at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night with also the players. And we'll take a brief break. When we come back, we're going to have a couple minutes here. We're going to be getting Jennifer Hazelton on the line. We're going to talk to her a couple minutes and get some updates from the Trump campaign. She is the communications director for the Donald Trump campaign in Georgia. We're going to get a couple minutes with her, and then right after that, George and I will take on the state and national issues and talk about the terrorist attacks that took so long for them to say terrorist attack. And at least Trump came right out immediately and said a bomb. I'm your host, BKP. We'll be back right after these messages again with Jennifer Hazelton, the Donald Trump communication director here in Georgia. Take us a break, guys.